Good morning, everyone. A senior U.S. official says that Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl is telling the military that he was tortured, beaten, and held in a cage after he tried to escape. All this will no doubt become part of any investigation into the deal between the Obama administration and Bergdahl's Taliban captors in Afghanistan. The White House trading Bergdahl for 5 Taliban leaders who were held at Gitmo. But congressional leaders are blasting this deal, saying, for one, they were never given the 30 days notice of it, as is required by law. Now, the House Armed Services Committee wants to hold hearings on the matter. My first guest is a member of that committee, Randy Forbes, Congressman from Virginia. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to be with you.
First off, what is your timing on this? When would you like to see these hearings happen?
Well, we're actually going to have one this Wednesday beginning at 10 a.m. for the House Armed Services Committee. So we'll start getting to the bottom of this very quickly, Maria.
What do you want to find out specifically?
Well, we want to find out the answers that American families are asking. You know, a lot of these stories, Maria, they begin with talking points in Washington and they filter out through the country. This one's different. This one really sprung up from American families, businesses, civic organizations who are just saying, what in the world is happening here, when basically they feel the administration lied to them, broke the law, and then they just look at the magnitude of the deal and they just don't see the big victory that the president's talking about.
Congressman, what do you think? Why would the president go around Congress and not discuss this in advance, as the law stipulates?
Well, Maria, it's more than just this time. As you know, this is a president that always believes that the end justifies the means. We had a judiciary hearing just a week or so ago where we found out they were actually releasing individuals, some of them who could be members of violent criminal gangs across the country. We believe they were doing that against the law, and they didn't even know which members they were releasing when we asked the questions on the hearing. So I think this is a bigger picture, though, Maria, because here's what you have. It wasn't just that the president went around the law. The administration told Congress that they would not do this before they consulted with Congress, and they just lied. Secondly, they then violated the law. And the third thing, Maria, if you put this in perspective, this is the equivalent of releasing a Deputy Secretary of Defense, a Deputy Secretary of the Interior, a Deputy Secretary of Intelligence, a governor, and a commander of troops, all in this one deal. And that's what has infuriated many members of Congress. They never had a chance to even ask those questions. Yeah,
you know, we had Bob Hormats on last week on this program. Of course, he was the undersecretary in Hillary Clinton's State Department. And he said right out, he said, Maria, at least 3 of these 5 guys are really, really, really bad guys. That's what he said on the air live. Do you expect them to go back to terrorism and attacks against our country?
Well, Maria, they've never repented. They've never said they were sorry for anything. They've never backed off of their passion. I think the statistics are overwhelming that we will see them back doing these kinds of things. And, Maria, one of the things that infuriates so many Americans, can you imagine how many American lives were given, the amount of money and cost that went into capturing these individuals in the first place? Because some of these individuals have been responsible for hundreds and hundreds of killings of innocent individuals. And now we've released them back on the streets.
Yeah, I mean,
and Maria, it's another.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please finish.
No, I was just going to say it's another thing to look at the fact that you have just increased the price of hostages, and we have other hostages around the world that are being held by different groups. You've increased the price tag of those hostages now on any transfer that would take place, and actually encourage some of these groups perhaps to go out and take other hostages and do this again. Yeah. That's why so many people are furious about this deal.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think we all would agree that, as a country, we don't want to leave any soldier behind. We don't want to leave anybody behind. But I guess, in looking at the terms of this arrangement, you have to question, was one soldier in exchange for 5 detainees at Guantanamo Bay the right deal to make? You just put a price tag out there.
That may be fair, but I think it's a different question. When I talk to many members of the armed forces, what they say when they talk about coming back to get somebody, they talk about us coming back to get them on our terms, militarily, right, not leaving them behind. They don't talk about making these kinds of swaps.
Let me ask you this, because I had a conversation with an insider in Washington last week, and he said to me, Maria, this is all about the president leaving a legacy of, I said I would close Guantanamo Bay, and I'm going to close Guantanamo Bay. And And so, I mean, is getting rid of, exchanging, releasing the 5 worst guys at Guantanamo Bay the beginning of closing Guantanamo Bay on his terms and having that as President Obama's legacy? He did what he said. He closed Gitmo.
Well, Maria, it's more than just closing Gitmo. It's actually releasing these individuals who are the worst of the worst. And we've had to fight this president tooth and nail from the time he came into office because that's exactly what he's been trying to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to have to fight to make sure he's not successful.
Congressman, we'll be watching your hearing on Wednesday as this all begins in Washington. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria.
We'll see you
have a great day.
Representative Randy Forbes.